Hello, friends. I'm Brian, and welcome to another episode of This Fantastic Life. In today's episode, we take you to Hopewell Furnace National Historic Site, located about 5 miles south of Birdsboro, Pennsylvania, in Berks County. Hopewell Furnace National Historic Site is a restored 19th century rural iron plantation. At the time of the Revolutionary War, this was the largest domestic producer of iron in the country. The site features 14 restored structures on 848 acres, including the restored furnace, water wheel, blast machinery, cast house, company store, blacksmith shop, tenant houses, and the ironmaster's mansion. Hopewell Furnace was founded in 1771 by ironmaster Mark Bird, who was the son of another ironmaster, William Bird, whom Birdsboro was named after. Mark Bird supplied the Continental Army with cannon and shot. However, he was forced into bankruptcy in 1784 as the young country's Continental Congress was unable to pay all their bills. The forge was revitalized by Daniel Buckley and run as a family business for 3 generations. It was used to produce pig iron, which was then used to sandcast pots, skillets, kettles, wheels, anvils, hammers, grates, and stoveplates. It closed during the recession in 1808 to 1816 and was reopened under manager Clement Brooke. In the most profitable years in the 1830s, Hopewell Furnace produced thousands and thousands of Hopewell Furnace stoveplates. It then fell into decline again in the financial panic of 1837. The Civil War brought some relief back as there was an increased demand for pig iron, and then it closed its doors for good in June 15th, 1883. Hopewell Furnace was designated a National Historic Site in 1938, making it one of the oldest units in the National Park System. Although I live locally, this was the first time that I went to visit since my childhood, and I was super impressed by the national park here. Beautiful fall day. The leaves were changing colors and blowing out of the trees. Hardly anyone was there on a Friday afternoon. Nice warm weather, and just had the place to myself. Walking around these old restored buildings, I just felt like I was taken back several centuries to the revolution. The workers' paychecks were direct deposited into credits at the company store, which was opened officially in 1784. The company clerk was second in command to the ironmaster. By the time of the Revolutionary War, roughly 1/7 of the world's iron was produced in the colonies. Part of the reason that George Washington decided to spend the winter at Valley Forge in nearby Philadelphia area was in order to protect the supply chains of all the iron forges and furnaces that laid to the west. Livestock and gardening were essential to supporting the plantation community, as the furnace ran 24/7 with workers working 12-hour shifts. Meat was cured in a smokehouse, while the women cooked and churned butter, and water was supplied by a springhouse. This is the outside of the cast house, which surrounds the furnace stack. Inside the furnace stack, there is a narrow chimney which released the carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide gases. Limestone, which is locally abundant, charcoal, which was supplied by burning wood from the surrounding forest, and iron ore from local mines was added to the tunnel head. Air was pumped into a wider lower chamber using blast machinery run by an overflow water wheel. The temperatures here reached between 2,600 and 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. At these temperatures, molten iron was more dense than the fuel and sank to the bottom, where it was separated from slag and run into troughs in the shape of the udders of a pig, hence the term pig iron. Molders employed a method known as flask casting. Both sides of a stoveplate were molded. The molder laid the bottom half, or the drag, on a piece of wood called the follow board. He then sifted fine sand over the pattern and packed the rest of the drag with coarse, damp sand. After scraping away the excess sand with his strike, he then placed another follow board on top and turned the drag over. Removing the first follow board, he blew away loose sand from the edges of the pattern and dressed the edges with a spoon. He then attached the cope, the flask top half, to the drag and again added fine and coarse sands. Before packing the sand, he inserted a wooden wedge to form a gate, allowing the molten iron to enter. After removing the wedge, separating the drag and cope, and carefully removing the pattern with a pair of lifters, he then secured the two halves of the flask with iron clamps and poured the molten iron through the gate. After the iron had cooled, the two halves were separated and removed the gate from the plate. Other workers brushed off the sand and filed rough edges. Workers worked around the clock. Every half hour, fillers dumped the tunnel head with 400 to 500 pounds of iron ore, 30 to 40 pounds of limestone, and 15 bushels of charcoal. Usually every 12 hours, roughly at 6 a.m. and 6 p.m., the gutterman drew off the slag and separated the iron in two ways. It could flow directly into the pig bed and the cast house floor, where it hardened into pig iron, or it could be tapped into large ladles and then cast into molds. Women supplemented family incomes by sewing, lodging, and boarding single workers, and laundering. Some made extra income working as woodcutters and miners. Families stayed in tenant houses on the plantation itself, and the single men stayed in the boarding house. African Americans also worked the furnaces. Enslaved at first, later they were employed as temporarily as runaway slaves or free blacks. As iron stoves grew more common in the 1800s homes, Hopewell Furnace built its operations on stoveplates. Over 100 different varieties and sizes of stoveplates were made, including oval, cannon, square, and Franklin stove types. This connecting bridge was used to take the raw materials from the wagons and transport them over to the chimney in order to put them in the tunnel head. If you liked this tour of Hopewell Furnace National Historic Site, then please drop a comment down below, click like, and we'd love to have you as a subscriber to our channel. This will help us to keep on traveling around the world, making great travel vlogs for you. So give us a subscribe, clicking that van icon in the lower right hand corner. And until next time, happy travels.